Hi everybody, it's a little chilly out here today, but I want to take you on a journey of the last 3 years, 3.5 years actually, of what we've done out here in the garden. And we've done a lot. Let's take a look at what it looks like right now. This is definitely not what it looked like 3.5 years ago. You really can't see the beds too well, but we do have the greenhouse as well. So we're going to take a look at the last 3 years, look at everything we've changed out here. And we've made multiple changes because we start with one idea, we realize that's not doing what we need it to do. So we change our ideas and we do something different. Let's take a look back and see the last 3.5 years. This is what our rock garden looked like when we first moved in here. And then we had this huge, big Scotch pine, drop pine cones everywhere. This is what the rest of the backyard looks like. And then we had a rabbit hutch that I found out about. Was going to be our chicken coop? Not anymore. So one of the things was to get these stumps taken out of here. There were some dips and hollows as well. But then we had this shed in the back. And this I decided was going to be our potting shed. So right now that's what I'm doing it in. I'm finishing it all up. This is what it was like. Wasn't going to meet my needs. So I was going to have to take all the shelving out of here. So the first job in the lower garden was to take this rabbit hutch all apart. It was a bit of hard work, and I decided not to keep it, posted it on Facebook, and gave it away. Then we had Kevin Clay come in and dig out our spot for our greenhouse. What he did while he was doing that was take everything from that side, put it on the other side so he could level it out. He also took the stumps out. And I forgot, we had the big old tree cut out. They're so precise, it's unreal. And then we had the swing taken out. I was planning on digging it out. I had no idea there was that big of cement under there. So the only way it would have come out was with Kevin taking it out for us. I'm so happy I got to know him. It made life so much easier. And there he is. His job is done and off he goes. Let's take a look at the yard. So this is what it looked like after it was done. It's nice and level on top. You can see a slope down to the fence, and that's where the greenhouse is gonna go. So the next morning, I had woken up really early, too early, went back to bed, got up early again, and came outside to find Mom out here picking up the sticks and rocks and down the side. And we had a lot of work that had to be cleaned up here. So we get a little fast motion here. And then I came along with the gorilla cart behind her and was picking up all the piles. And we had some really big roots that we had to pick up. And it was quite the job. You can see, look at it all. Then we raked up all the rocks to sort of level it off, preparing it for our beds that we're going to put in. So the first ones we put in were our raspberry. So we laid them all out, figured out where we wanted, and then started to dig. This was one of the hardest jobs that we had to do here. That ground was like concrete, and this was just a few days after it had been put here. So after trying to dig, I decided maybe if we wetted it and got it good and wet and let it sit for 2-3 hours and then come back, we might be able to get it out of here. And it worked. So you can see the ground is quite wet, and this clay ground, once it gets wet, it holds that moisture for a while. So I was able to get in here, pickaxe it, and then dig it out, and then was hauling off some of the stuff as well. So Mom was in here digging out some of the stuff, just prepping it so we could put our raspberry bushes in it. And then we dumped a bunch of compost in there. Just straighten it out, got our plants in, and it looks fabulous. Our first row. So I came out early the next morning. I had started digging another one, and Mom was out there. There's our blackberries that we planted at the other end. But look at these raspberry bushes. Don't they look great? So really excited, but the ground still looks ugh. So what we started to do is lay down weed suppression fabric. This is what we pulled out of the the rose bushes up by the pool garden. We couldn't buy it. There was nothing around during COVID. So we used the scraps, and then we used cardboard from when we moved here. So you can see I've got a bit of the fabric along the rock garden there. So we put that there, but in between we put cardboard. Now that one bed there in the back, that was our first garden bed we put in. Mom's just wetting it down, and then we'll put some compost. Oh, I forgot. This is the mulch that was up by the rose garden, and we had brought it all down here. And I mean, look at the change already. It's making it look like a completed garden. I just love the look of it. I love going back and look at this and seeing what all we did. Now next, you can see we're putting compost in. So the plan was just to put compost down and grow right in the compost, but quickly realized it just wasn't going to be thick enough. So you can see Mom up there loading up the mulch, and now we're working on our first big garden bed. So Mom's just laying some mulch there, and then that's a certain amount of feet that from the bed, and then we decided from there we'll put the compost in, and that's where we were going to start our garden. Plans change. So just getting that spread out, and we're going to switch jobs. So up top where the mulch was, we decided to turn that into a garden bed, at least for the first year. And this was, what was it? We planted our zucchini here. That's what it was. So now we have a delivery of wood coming in, and these were just decking boards, and that's what we were going to use for our raised garden beds. This is the only bed that we still have, but the plan is to take it out this year. So now you can see we got this long bed in here. It's about 27 feet. But what I did is I left the end open. So this way we could fill up the gorilla cart, back it in here, and then dump the compost into the bed. And this is the last of the beds we're finishing off. We had 4 of the big ones. Now this is cedar that I got from my uncle. We'd met them in Ashcroft, and this was going to be at the beds in the greenhouse. So let's get to the greenhouse. So this is where it was dug out, and you can see all the roots sticking out. So one of the first things before we could build the greenhouse was to get rid of all the sticks. A little tiny chainsaw and some other tools, and I cut out what I could. I think I missed one. There it is. I missed that piece. So I still had to get out. But you can see the cart was full of stuff. Now this is the Shelter Logic garage, and it's 13.5 feet wide, 24 feet long, and 10 feet high. We laid everything out and then got busy building this greenhouse. I'm actually shocked Mom and I were able to do it ourselves. We probably needed a third person. And that's what it looks like. You can see the beds on the right, but the greenhouse frame. Now the next thing was to even it out, level it. You need to make sure the top is level. Otherwise you could have a windstorm come through and just rip it to shreds. So it took us some work, and you can see here, it's not straight. So we had to do some digging and leveling and get it all done. And of course, when you're digging, you find great big rocks. That I think was the only really big one. And then we had this cross beam to put in. There was no hole for it. So I had to drill, we got them in, and then got the beds all in. And this is what it looked like originally. I had the compost right to the outside wall, and I decided that's not what I wanted. I needed to change that, and I wanted to make the outside beds higher. So this is where I'm putting in a higher bed. What I had to do was pull the compost away from the wall, and then we're going to build it up another 8 inches. So you can see I've started to pull it all away from the wall, and I had to do that around the whole greenhouse. And that's just giving you a big view of the whole thing. And you can see I've got the inside wall done first, and then I have to do the outside. And you can see there, I've really got it pulled away from the outside wall now. So next step is to get it in, and there it is. You can see I used a rebar to hold it up, but I've got the higher beds all the way around. Now it's just to get compost in. So what happened is we were having a truckload of compost delivered, and it was going to take a few days. So I took the compost from the one side, moved it to the other side, so I could at least get that side planted. And this is the side that needs to be filled up because it's empty. Really, you can see that. Now, an issue we had, if it rained or I watered too much, the water would get in the pathway. So I decided we need to do something about this, and we decided to put gravel into the pathway. We were finally able to buy some weed suppressant fabric. So Mom was cutting it there, we put it in, and then we started to haul gravel in. So I'd actually take my pickup, went to the yard in town, and just got probably a yard. So Mom was filling up the buckets, I was hauling it in and dumping it, and Mom's here just raking out the last bit of it. I think it looks fabulous, and it's worked well. I haven't walked in water forever. And doesn't it look great? Happy. Another job done. So here is our load of compost. Black gold, as I call it. It'll be I'm hoping this year to produce enough compost to top off our beds. Now I'm building new beds, so we'll need more compost. So then it was just a matter of hauling it all in and filling up those beds. And there it is. It's all done. I've got some veggies planted, but I'm thinking the greenhouse is looking fabulous. One more addition I'm going to be making to the greenhouse this year. You'll have to keep watching. And this is what our yard looked like. Greenhouse done, beds done. But then we decided the beds weren't good enough. This is where we planted periwinkle, and I'm actually going to pull those out and build in raised gardens. So this is just the look of the beds, and they're not going to be here for long. So what I'm doing here is pulling the compost against the outside wall of the bed, because I'm going to build the new beds, and I don't want to lose the compost, and the new side of the bed has to be the same place. So I'm digging out in between two beds, because we're taking the 27-foot bed and turning it into two 12-foot beds. So they're going to end up being 12 feet long by 45 inches wide. And I'll actually have 4 beds like this, and then a couple that are smaller. And of course, the puppies have come to help, or in Nuggets cake, supervise. So here's what my new bed looks like. And now what I have to do is pull the compost into the bed and then build the other side. It looks pretty good. 16 inches high? So here the 2 beds are done. Still need to fill them up. And let's take a closer look. You can tell I've put water into the bed, so I'm going to have all drip lines. And I've got 2 posts in here so I can do my tomato trellis. And this is what it looked like from up above. I mean, I think it looks really good. Now the plan was to take the wood from the other side and build these bigger, but those beds look so beautiful that we did the same kind of beds in the rest of the garden. And there's Nugget. He was so disappointed when that pile of dirt went. Look at him, what a sweetie pie. So this is just showing you how I was building those beds. The ends I put together in my shop, and then I brought them out here and then added the 12-foot boards to it. And then once we got that all together, would lay them down into place. And that's what we're doing here, or I'm doing. And then Mom would come out and help me get it measured so it was the right distance away. I mean, it is narrow. I think it's 16 inches between the beds. And then we had to make them level. They all have to be level. And this is what it looked like when it was done and the veggies were growing. I am so excited about how it looks. I mean, it's just beautiful. And we got the trellises up, used the cattle panels, and I love working out in this garden. Now this is where our raspberries were. We almost lost them all because we had a huge heat wave. We were 45 degrees Celsius. and we put T-posts in and wire to hold them in place. Not happy with it, so we're gonna pull that out and change it. And we planted potatoes in between in pots, and that worked quite well. I think I'm gonna try it again this year. We didn't have any potatoes last year. So this is a closer look at the tomato trellis. And at first I used these brackets with the cable, but what would happen is the tomato hooks would all sink towards the center of the cable. So it wasn't working. And then I put screws in all along so I could run string around, and then we could grow our peas if we wanted. So this year I'm going to be growing snow peas there. And then of course our tomato plants. And that's just what it looks like with our tomatoes. I changed it. I put in 2x4s instead, and then put eye hooks in, and then we could hook up our tomato trellises. Works way better. And this is just another view of the garden in the evening, and you can see the cattle panel trellises really well. And yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. So this is our rock garden, and the last couple years we planted portulaca in there. This year we're going to turn it into the garden and put cucumbers. This is a trellis that we built for our blackberries, and I just use, bamboo. That's it. It is leaning now, so I'm going to put a couple T-posts in there and hold it back up into place. I like how it looks. So there's our potting shed. So we needed to get it done, and you can see it's wired now. We've got the plug-ins there. There's wood for the new door. Those doors are going away. They just don't work. And there's our new door, well, new to us. And I have fabulous neighbors. They came over, helped get it out, was able to get it into place, screwed it in, and then Mom and I were able to work on it, brace it, get it into where it needed to be. So I put those boards up top just so it wouldn't fall out. And there it is. The door is in and it's working. And I love the windows. It gives lots of light. So this is the outside. It just showing before I put the trim in. I had to sand the paint off and then put this trim in. This year I got to paint the trim. Put the foam in so we didn't have any air coming in, and then time to put the paneling in. So this piece of wood is what we use to get the paneling up on the ceiling, and that's how it started. I'd crawl up a ladle with the panel, and then Mom would come with that to brace it, and then I would line it up on one side and then the other side, and then we'd screw it into place. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. So now I just had to put the plug covers in, and it's gonna look great. This is what it looks like, well, last week. That shelf in the back is staying there. I've gotten 2 more, and they're gonna go down the side, because those shelves right there are 24 inches. The narrower ones are 18. My trays are 20. And that way I save 4 inches. Just gives me more room to work around in the potting shed. So it's looking pretty good. The last job we did this year was our raspberry bushes. You can tell they're gone wild. So I had to clean them out, put new posts in, and this is what I'm starting with in the spring. Put some cross beams in, and we're good to go.
Well, I hoped you enjoyed seeing all of that and what we've done in the last 3.5 years. And there's going to be a lot more changes. Not so many changes down in this garden. This garden's pretty much wrapped up. I have a few more beds that I want to put in and some cover on the ground so we don't have weeds growing, but not a lot. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video from My Mini Homestead. Bye, everybody.